How often are job offers rescinded? In this video, we'll cover 8 of the major reasons why employers actually rescind on job offers. So watch this video till the end so you know exactly what to do so this doesn't happen to you. If you want to find and nurture your ideal occupation or business niche, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you know whenever a new video comes out. Also, remember to smash that like button below. Maybe you're watching this video because you're scared that a job offer that was extended to you might be rescinded, or maybe it's already happened to you or someone you know. First, you gotta understand it from the employer's perspective. They don't want to rescind on an offer. Think about it this way. They've spent all this time interviewing people, sourcing candidates, and finally they narrow it down to one person or two people or whatever, and then they extend the offer. So for them to take that back, that is a major pain in the behind because they basically what they're saying is all the effort they spent was for nothing. So if we say that, then why would they actually go and rescind on an offer? Well, there are two major reasons. There are 8, but 2 that are kind of like the archetypes. And the first one is simply they discovered that the candidate cannot actually do the work legally or for other reasons. Number 2 is unprofessionalism, which means that the candidate behaved in a way that was very different from what they understood before they extended the offer. So we'll jump into those now. Alright, so why wouldn't a candidate be able to actually do the work? Wouldn't they find that out before extending the offer? Well, not necessarily. Sometimes it's until they extend the offer that they actually start doing things like background checks, for example. So they go in and they discover that you said that you had a bachelor's degree in XYZ. Turns out you didn't go to that school, you didn't do that bachelor's, or maybe you said you had a particular job title at a previous company. Turns out that wasn't your job title there. Sometimes people like to embellish their resumes, but embellishing too much is bad, because then what happens is that when they go for the background check, they figure out that you were lying, you were saying something that wasn't true. And we're not saying here something like saying that you were kind of like the CEO when you were really a data entry person, but something as simple as saying that you were sort of like a manager or an economist, and really your job title was completely different from that. Maybe you were in IT or something like that. So basically that's a major red flag that's going to cause the company to want to rescind on the offer, and they probably will, and they have basis for it. Another case of potentially not being able to do the actual work is if for some reason you are not available to do it. Maybe you were someone who didn't have the ability to legally work in the country. Maybe you were an immigrant that was an illegal immigrant. Maybe you're someone who, for whatever reason, you were thrown in jail. I actually know a person in the place that I used to work at that got thrown in jail and they couldn't actually do the work. Now imagine if instead of being an employee, that person had been a candidate who had an offer extended to them. What do you think the company will do? If the guy will be in jail for like 6 months, they will rescind on the offer, obviously. Alright, so we have background checks, and we also have the legality of it, like potentially not being able to be at the place to do the work. The third one, which also has to do with the legality of it, has to do with actually being incapable of it. And we sort of mentioned it already with regards to like being an illegal immigrant, for example. But another potential thing will be like maybe you had a non-compete agreement or a non-disclosure agreement with another company, which forbids you from working with a competitor for a period of time, for a few years, for example. Or maybe you have a medical condition that really doesn't allow you to do the work, especially if it's a physical labor kind of thing, and you didn't disclose that even though perhaps you should have. Alright, so if you know for a fact that you are legally able and capable also of producing the work, and you did not fudge your information on your resume or any of your other materials so that the background checks will come out green on the green, then the other reasons why a job offer may be rescinded are the professionalism reasons that we're going to cover now. So the first one of those has to do with actually being someone that's responsive. Nothing like having a candidate who does not respond on a timely fashion. If you're an employer and a hiring manager and you need someone to help you within a few weeks, the last thing you want is to extend an offer to one person out of 100 that started the process, and then that one person doesn't get back to you when you send them an email telling them, hey, you can prepare by doing this, we need you to do X, we need you to come back into the office with having read this file so that you are ready to go as you start, and the person doesn't get back to you like ever. Now, what would you do as a hiring manager? Wouldn't you get a little fidgety and think like, damn, like I need someone who can actually work, someone who's into this, someone who's gonna work, come in and be able to be of value to the company, be able to help us. So if you are a candidate, do not just go off on vacation and without having any access to the internet, because you will come off as unresponsive, as irresponsible, as unprofessional, and as someone who they will not want to work with them. Similar to unresponsiveness, that's the second one here in this part will be ghosting. If you simply disappear from the face of the earth, don't expect to get back to them a week or 2 or 3 or even a month later and expect them to be serious about you. Simply because you disappeared. They were trying to communicate with you. This has to do also with unresponsiveness, but it's a little different because in unresponsiveness, it's like, okay, I respond, but you respond at a pace that's too slow. Ghosting is completely getting off the grid. And here you thought ghosting was only about dating, huh? Next two also go hand in hand. One of them is creating tension in your communications, and the other one is attempting to renegotiate the contract after it's being extended. So tension how? Well, potentially you start calling people in the company, maybe people who work with the hiring manager, the hiring managers themselves, and then you start demanding and asking and putting things in a way that you haven't actually started working yet and you're already demanding stuff and extra things and pushing it and being pushy and doing all kinds of things and creating conflict out of nowhere because you haven't even started in the office. You wouldn't believe it. There are people who do that. They go in and say, oh, if you don't give me a raise of like 20K, then I can't assure you that I'll be there on my start date, right? So it's kind of like, okay. I mean, if you have a competing offer and you choose to take that competing offer, then you communicate to them, and that's okay because you haven't signed the agreement yet. But just going in, kind of like being a bit of a, how do we call it, like blackmailing and like trying to push that thing, that doesn't leave a good impression. Similarly, that's renegotiating, but you can also create tension in other ways. Like maybe you're going in thinking of having an office here or speaking abruptly to someone else. That also goes into lack of professionalism, which is another one, which is basically you showing that you lack some judgment in terms of, oh, you go in and maybe you ask some questions or you say some things that show that you're not really thinking straight, so to speak. And out of all the ones we've mentioned so far, if you think that the others are very egregious, then this last one about being professional with your communications might be the one, because sometimes you don't know that you are missing perspective. You don't know that you are missing that part of professionalism if you see the world in a certain way, and then the others might catch up onto it and simply let you go without you even understanding what happened. And that's usually maybe part of immaturity on our parts, or with regards to simply not having lived experiences that allowed us to see those flaws in our character. Some examples with regards to that might be you're talking with the hiring manager or the person who you're supposed to be very diplomatic, very professional in your communications with them because you want to put your best foot forward. That's what people expect from you. But you don't do that. You go in and maybe you ask them something, not even in a funny way, like, oh, so basically it's until 5, right? Or, sure, I mean, I know you would likely like to go to the strip club with us, right? Anything like that can show like a serious lack of professionalism and kind of like, hey, wait, like we're not that close and you haven't even started the job yet and you're kind of like being very unprofessional. Is that how you're going to speak with our potential clients? Is that how you're going to speak to customers, to our employees? Will we have to deal with like sexual harassment suits with you, for example, to mention a few? Things like, okay, so I'm working with this person, so why are they asking me this? Is it that it sounds like they are very novice at what they do? It sounds like they don't really know what they're doing. It sounds like they don't even have the self-awareness to read the situation and figure out that this is not something that they should be telling me in such a direct way so early in the game. That's a hard one to track. Whenever you're in doubt, just ask someone who has more experience than you, maybe in your family or someone you know, to see if a communication is something that's okay. Usually, if you have a little bit of doubt in your mind, then that means you shouldn't send it. That means that there is something there that could be off. So better to just go with corporate speak in a way in which no one can signal you out for for basically being you or being different. So that might be a reason why some people choose to be entrepreneurs instead. Comment below if all of this about being professional, being responsive, and showing up on time makes sense to you. Alright, so now you know, as long as you are legally able to work, capable to actually go to work, you didn't fudge any of your information for the background check, and you're actually responsive and professional in your communications, then your offer being rescinded is a very unlikely occurrence. If it still happens, then there may be something wrong with the company. Maybe they decided that they wanted to hire someone else. Maybe they didn't have the financial resources. Maybe they thought a position will exist and then they decided to take it out. Maybe there was a political internal process in which the hiring manager lost, maybe, in the power struggle, and then they got taken out of the situation, and the project that they had in which they were going to hire you is no longer in effect. There are many things that could happen. So if you suspect that this might be the case, this latter case, then it has nothing to do with you. Just keep going out there and applying to other positions, because at the end of the day, it didn't have anything to do with you, as long as you followed the tips that we've discussed before, the mistakes, and you didn't go with them. Now, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell so you know whenever a new video comes out. Also, leave any comments with questions or anything you might like to add, and remember to share this video with your friends.